So welcome. I'm Amanda. I'm a library assistant here at Middleton Public Library. And tonight we are going to be looking at Gmail and other Google products. So I like to call this class Gmail and more. There's so many things in the land of Google. We're going to cover just a few. Wow, there's so many. You can always look through them on your own after this to get to know some more. But other than Gmail, we'll also look at Google Drive and Google Docs and calendar and photos as well a little bit. And before we get too far ahead here, I'm also going to put in the chat. Let's see. I'm going to put in a file. So I do have a PDF that you can, after this is in there, you should be able to click to open on that Gmail and more handout and save it to your device. This will be posted as well on our website. So it'll both be the recording and the handout. So if for some reason you can't get that saved tonight, it is just verbatim, everything we're gonna go through here. I'm gonna do kind of the presentation first, and then we're gonna look at a little bit of it live so you can see what it looks like in my account. So that is in the chat now, and we'll get started. So, and for Gmail, that is just a regular email. However, when you make a Gmail account, Google considers this just your Google account. So if you already have a Gmail account, by default, you already have the Google account. So that anytime you sign into Google, whether it's for Gmail or another product that Google makes, you're going to use that same email address as your login and the same password. So think of those as interchangeable. Gmail account or Google account, they're really one and the same. And if you haven't made one before, the way that you would start is just going to either Google or gmail.com. And usually up in the right corner is where there is login or create an account. So when you click on create account, or when you hit login, it's going to show here as it is on the screen here, and then you would click create an account. And here they are going to ask you for minimal information, name, what your username is going to be, and that's also going to be the email address that it would create for you if it's a Gmail account. You can use other email addresses to fill that in. So if you have a Yahoo one and you want that for your Google account, you would click on that blue link there where it says, I prefer to use my current email address. So there are people who have been using for a while now a different email for this. But if you don't have an email address, it is nice and easy. If you just put your username in there, it creates a Gmail account for you. Then you would make your password. I believe it needs to be like 8 numbers, characters, includes a lowercase and uppercase. And it will let you know whether or not it's good enough to pass, and then put in your birth date. A lot of people ask me questions about if I really have to put in my real birth date, and honestly, you don't. I guess the same goes with your name. If you really don't feel comfortable putting your real name in there, you could always make one up too. But they do this because they do want to make sure that you are at least 13 years of age. Obviously, I know that you are, but Google doesn't. So that is why they ask for that information. And then you just click to their Google Terms of Service and continue. And then you have a welcome page. You can add a photo if you want to your Google profile. You don't have to. You can always click next step. And if you notice on this screenshot up in the right corner, it does have a blank little person sitting there in the blue icon. If you would add a photo, that's where that photo would go. So you can click get started. They also have a few quick buttons down at the bottom. For the M that looks like a letter is Gmail. There's Google Chrome. And you can get more by clicking on your account here to access your apps too. There are some things that you might want to adjust within Gmail for appearance or behavior. For example, you could create a signature within Mail or a vacation reply. You might want to make different folders. So if you have, I have emails from my husband, emails from my mom. They call them labels. That is one thing that I have always found confusing within the Google land, is that a folder is called a label. You can also change the theme of your background when you're on a desktop or laptop computer. It looks very generic when you're on a tablet or a phone, but you can adjust the backgrounds. So something like your theme, you do have a gear icon in the top right corner when we log in. And when you click on there, you can choose theme, and then you can pick your theme if you want to be fun. So I usually change this all the time, but you just select which one you want and then hit save. And when I log into my account here in a few minutes, you'll see what I currently have it to, and we'll play with it just for fun, and you can see. Now within Gmail, you also have contacts. So this is your Google contacts. It does share this contact list throughout all of the Google apps. So if you have an Android phone, you probably already have a bunch in your contacts list because Android is owned by Google. And in that sense as well, you probably already have a Gmail account because that you sign into everything on your phone with it. But you do have, I'll show you, let's see here. I have a nice big, let's go back. No, I don't have a, it's probably further in. I'm looking for a screenshot to show where that drop down menu is. So you usually have two different menus. One on the right side is going to be for like your browser, and then on the left side it'll be for Google. So you would click on the menu and select contacts. It's usually a plus with a little person. And here is where you can add contacts or edit contacts. This one here was just my husband, one of his random emails that I have. You can see that once you have a contact, you can edit it. And you edit by finding the pencils. So over here on the right side, there's a pencil. And then this is where I can edit. I can edit his name, his profile name, any address stuff, and then always remember to hit the save button. Like I said, oh, here we go. So there's a little screenshot of where it says Gmail up at the top, and it'll be on the left side of your browser. And then you can choose if you need to go to contacts or where you need to be. So here's a list of like a bunch of contacts together. To add a contact, like I said, you would hit that plus with a person button. And again, always look for the pencils, or if you notice on these ones here, because it's listed out, there's these at the end of each contact. On the right side, there's 3 dots. That signals to you that that is a menu. So if you click on 3 dots, kind of going vertically, it's always going to be a menu. And that's also where you can select edit. And also by default, when you send an email to a new address, so if you just start composing a message fresh, Gmail is automatically going to add that address to your contacts, but they may not necessarily have a name connected with it. So you would have to go back and edit that contact. So it might just insert it in as the email address instead of the name. Maybe I can look in my contacts later and see if we can find one like that. Compose, there is always a compose button, which is either, I think in the app, they show it as a pencil. If you're on a phone or a tablet, and then otherwise it's just a square button that says compose. Again, we'll see that live in a second. When you do click on that button, you always have the email pop up over top of your email box or your inbox. So if you notice on this screenshot, behind you have all your mail that's listed by date, but then you do have your new message that you're starting to compose that pops up here. And you have a few buttons. There is a minimize button in the right corner where if you start to write the message but are not done, you can always minimize it. It will always stay down in that corner. It's just not going to take up so much of that screen. And you also have a close. So if you decided you didn't actually need to start typing something, then you can just close it out. Once you do start typing, however, it is auto saving. So it would be something that shows up in your drafts. And drafts are considered anything that hasn't been sent yet, but started. And if you ever need to add attachments for photos or documents, there is a paper clip down at the bottom of the new message that you would click to add a file. You know, we'll go over that too. But you have your to section. So the person that you're writing to, email address, and then you have your subject of the email and then the body of your email. And then when you're ready, you would just hit that send button. I know some of you may already know how to send an email. This is just quick overview of Gmail. So apologies if you are already further ahead than that. Let's see, I talked about that. Okay, here, so I added attachment. Like I said, it's gonna be a paper clip that you click on. And then it is gonna pull up a dialog box is what they call it, of your computer. So you would choose the documents from your computer and then click open so that it attaches. And when it does that too, it's going to have a little blue bar for loading. And then it should have a little check mark when it's done to let you know that it's complete. And then you can click send. When you're reading your email, when you go into your inbox, obviously it's usually going to be the most recent thing that is at the top. And then something that was further from this point is going to be down towards the bottom. But also, if you notice that unread messages are always going to be bolded, and then anything that you do read will not be bolded. So that is one way that you can tell what you've already looked at or opened and what you haven't. If you look also next to the little check boxes, there are stars, and that is how you can favorite an email. Anything that's starred, you can have that category and it can make it easier to find things later. If you have really important emails, you just click on the star and then it should light up with a yellow star. So you just click on the email you want and it should open up in a new window. You can change the settings for that if you want it to open up next to your inbox and not be a new window. We can look at that stuff too, but it usually defaults to opening up in a different window. And within the email, you do have a few different buttons. Now, some of these, I think this might be a slightly older picture. Some of these icons might look a little different, but it's still the same. The graphic just might be a little different. So there's usually a back to inbox button that's going to be in the top left corner. And then the trash is going to be the next important one. And then you have a reply button right within the email here. And that is replying back to Henry. And you do have other options. So if you click on the arrow next to here, so it's like a drop down arrow, that's going to give you your options. If this was something that was sent to multiple people, you could select reply to all or forward if you want to push the email along to somebody else. And if there are any attachments that you need to also include, usually you can choose forward. There's usually an option to include all attachments. There is some more actions up here if you can't find what you're looking for. If you need to move it to a different folder or label, as they call it in Google, that is this button here for moving. And then these arrows in the right corner would be going to the next email message or the previous one. So that's a way that you can go through your email without going back to the inbox if you want, or you can just go back to inbox. You also have the option to open attachments without going into the email. Usually you're going to have a little paper clip in this column next to the time that you received the email. And you should be able to click on that paper clip and it should just start downloading the attachments for you. This is an example of what it would look like when you have an attachment in an email. It is going to show you what kind of email what kind of file it is. So this is a Word document file. So you can click view or you can click download. When you click download, it opens this here and it asks you where you want to open it or if you just want to save it. So you can choose which one and hit OK. To delete a message, like I talked about before, you have a bunch of buttons up at the top of your email. I think this is the updated version. So like I said, they do change the icons every once in a while. This is the updated version. So where was it? This one is the older version. So that's trash. This one is moved to a different file. This one is to snooze it. So like if you wanted to be reminded of it later and take care of that later. This one is archive. Oh, I can't remember what this one is. I've never used that one before. This one is for the tasks list. So if you use tasks within Google, that can also count as that. So that's just a quick overview of email. Again, I'm going to log into mine and you can see it. I'm sure a lot of you do have email and you might be here for some of the other Google stuff. So let's move on to that. Google Drive is a cloud storage space for Google. Or if you have an Android phone, you're also using Google Drive as storage. for your files within your phone and photos. So they do give you 15 gigabytes of free storage to upload from your computer and store them in the cloud. And what I mean by the cloud is it's not on your physical computer. You're using the internet to store those files on a different computer somewhere else. A lot of these facilities where they store all of these computers are like down in Texas and California, and they're just giant buildings that only have computer boards, rows and rows and rows of them, and they're about as secure as they could be. And everything is just using the internet, going back and forth through that. So it's not really up in the air when we're talking about the cloud, but it just means that it's somewhere remotely. So it's not on your physical computer or physical device. So once you upload a file, no matter what type of file it is, you're going to be able to manage and organize it, share it, and access it from anywhere. So that is the benefit of storing it other places and having it accessible via the internet. To access this, you would go to either typing in your web browser, drive.google.com, or you can just log into your Google account and navigate to the spot where they have all of the Google apps up in the right corner. So here's an example of a screenshot I took the other night. So I'm logged into my Google account. So next to my little A for Amanda, I have a menu button that is a 3x3 cube of dots. This is your app menu. So if you need to get to other Google apps or Gmail itself, this is what you would click. And then since we're talking about Drive, this is the Google Drive logo here. It's a little triangle out of the blue, yellow, and red and green colors that Google uses. So that is where you would click to open up the drive. Once you've opened up the drive, say you want to upload a file, you would click on New and then select what you want to do. So right behind this little pop-up window that I took a screenshot of is just a button that says New. And here you would select File Upload. If you wanted to get right into a different Google app, they do have a little shortcut to Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides, and Forms. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but for now we're going to you click File Upload. And then again, it's going to bring up a dialog box for you to choose the file from your computer. And click Open. And then it should open up. This is another shot of what that Google Drive looks like. So here's that New button. And then underneath, it does have a nice list here. And it has My Drive, computers. Sometimes people will share things with you, so you may not be the original creator of the file, but it's shared with you. So that will show up in your shared list. You also have a quick way to get to anything that you recently uploaded or opened, anything you starred, your spam and trash. And then it also has a nice little graphic here to show you about your storage. So it says here I have 4.85 gigabytes of 15 gigabytes used. So less than half, which is a good place to be. If you do run out of storage, which does happen very quickly, especially if you back up photos to Google Drive, or if you have an Android phone, there is, I think it's like, I don't know, like $1 or $2 for a month for a crazy amount of extra storage. I know paying isn't the funnest thing in the world, but I do think it's affordable. And it is easy these days to run out of space. The things that take up the most space are always going to be video files. After that, it's going to be photos, then it's music, then it's just documents like PDFs and Word documents. So what we use our phones for the most are those big ticket items for our storage space. So it's easy to fill that up quickly. You can have multiple Google accounts, I suppose. Things can get messy quickly though. So I'll just preface with that if you're trying to skirt around that. You can also back up any of your stuff remotely if you have hard drives and stuff to get around also paying for more than the 15 gigabytes. You would be surprised with how quickly it fills up. And I also wanted to make a note that depending on your browser and your operating system, you may be able to upload files by just clicking and dragging a file from your computer into your Google Drive. So if you would have Google Drive opened on your browser, you might be able to just click and drag. I do have Mac computers myself, so that is something that you're able to do, is just drag it from the desktop into a window. That I don't think is an action that Word allows you to do. I think you do have to go through the regular upload with the new button. So we'll look a little bit more at Drive in a second as well. We have Google Docs. Again, to get to this, you would start in your Google Drive, is the easiest place. And then you can click on the new button and then you would select Google Docs. So this is the Word document application that Google makes. So it is akin to like Microsoft Word. And it's going to open up a fresh document. If you notice here, we have all of our tools for font and fixing it that way. You also have all of the kind of usual tabs at the top that you would see in Microsoft Word, like File, Edit, Insert, Format, Tools, and so on. You also have the spot where it says Untitled Document. So it doesn't label it anything until you ask it to. So you can click over top of that and start typing, and then you can rename that. And then click OK. Because once you click on that, it's going to rename the entire document with whatever you put there. Your file will be renamed, and you can always access this file anytime in your Google Drive. That's where it does save. You can also get to it anytime you also open the Google Docs. Also, it is important to remember that you don't need to hit save all the time because there's no save button when you're in Google Docs. This uses autosave. So anytime you type anything, it immediately saves it as you edit. That's also important to remember if you accidentally get rid of something. You do have an undo button. So over here you have undo and redo. It also is listed in edit. So you are able to undo something. It's not the same as it is in Microsoft Word, where if you got rid of something and then you're like, oh, it didn't save that. It most definitely did save the deletion that you put in, but you do still have undo. It's actually really nice not to have to remember that, but it can be dangerous if you go back and forth between using Google Docs and Microsoft Word. One really nice aspect of Google Docs is that it is very easy to collaborate on documents. Whether you're in the same building next to each other or if you're on opposite sides of the planet. So there is a mode, and I'll show you this in a second. Oops, I always go a little too far all the time. There is a mode button at the top of each document. So it's a little pencil and it'll always say editing as you are writing. You can change that to suggesting or viewing, and then select the file format you want. And then other person can make suggestions and editing. So that's how you can share it that way. You can also just add multiple editors, and I'll show you that too. So when you're on the file or the folder you want, this button that pops up here, that's got the person icon with a plus, is the share button. So then you would enter in their name and email address and the level of access that you're giving. So whether or not they get to edit it, or they can only make suggestions, or they can only view it. So those are the three options that you have. And then if you want, you can add a note and then click send. And then that's going to send an email to invite them to share the document. Again, we can look at that when we go into my account here. So that is a small little thing of Google Docs. We'll go more into it when I open it up here. Google Calendar is exactly what it sounds like. If you haven't used it before, this is just a calendar that is built in across devices if you are signed into Google and other places. This is the same Google Calendar that would be on any Android phone. You have a few buttons that we'll talk about here. So first, you always have your menu. And this is also how you can move around to different apps, but we're in Calendar. It is showing the blue is today. We have navigation buttons to go back and forth. And this is for the view we're in. So we're in August. And we're also within the week view. So you can look at this monthly, weekly, daily, or hourly even, I think. So the blue dot is the day that, this was yesterday when I took this screenshot. And here are some things that I put into my calendar. As you can see, I can make them different colors. And then it has the full time frame. And then as you go through your day, you also have a little red guideline that kind of follows through the day. And that's kind of nice. You can just see where you are in your day. So here's today. Here I am at work. Next to the view option button, you have, again, your apps icon menu button. Everything that is the rectangles in here is called the schedule area. So any of those spots you can schedule an event. And then up on the left side here, we do have a little mini calendar that's showing you the month in a tiny view in case you need it. And then underneath here is a calendar that I can turn on or off. So this adds other things into my calendar. So I have a birthdays calendar, I have my own personal calendar, and I have one for Middleton since this is connected to my work email. So that's going to have anything specific from Middleton, my job, that I would put in there. Like if I have a program that's going on, and so forth. This is also how you can share calendars between family members. You would look at that too, but you can send an invite to them and you can add their calendar to yours so you can see, when they work or if they have an appointment, and they can also see when you reciprocate that invite. And to make an event, you click on this button up in the top left corner with the rainbow plus and create. So here you create an event. And when you do that, this pops up. You would click on the when section if you need to change the date. You can also just click anywhere in the schedule area. If you double click, it should do the same thing with pop up this create button. You can name it, and then you would put in the time, what calendar this is, and then you can hit create. This is also, if you click on something, you can also edit it that way. But there is more than one way to schedule the event. Like I said, you can hit the create button, you can double click somewhere. If you go into like the big advanced mode for making the event, this is where you can get really fancy. If you need to change the time zone, say this is something for work and your time zone is different than like the client you're talking to, that could be important. If this is something that repeats every week, you could also do that. If this is a video call, this is also a place where like a Zoom link you could insert in here. You can put in a description. It also could be, like if you have a doctor's appointment at a clinic you don't normally go to, so then you could put the information in on like what floor it's on and what door you go into. Any kind of information can go in that description and will show up for you. The calendar, like I said, if it's your calendar or like a family calendar, you can change that. Here's where you can change the color that pops up, and I would highly recommend using different colors for different kinds of events. I know my husband and I have a color for work, he has a color for work, we have a color for personal stuff for each of us, but then also a family color if it involves like our son. So our calendar always looks like a rainbow. You can also have notifications that pop up on your screen or your device and how much time before the event you can choose. You can also have an email notification. And then you can also change whether or not this is just the calendar default or if everyone can see it or all that stuff. If you need to add guests to this, so if this is something that you're inviting multiple people to, you can add in their email address here as well. So there's a lot of stuff within Calendar that's super helpful. That's really the main thing. It's just Calendar, add the event, and then sharing things. This is in your handout. I'm not going to go through that right now, but there is a way you share your calendar with people. Like if you're trying to share a family calendar. These resources are also in the handout, but other places that you can get help with Google products. One, there's just a plain Gmail Help Center, but then there is a Google Help Center. There's a Google Apps Learning Center, which we'll take a look at. And also, if you want something that's not from Google, but something that is to help you learn Google products, Goodwill Community Foundation has a great website for different tech things. And let's see, let's open up. That. But Goodwill Community Foundation is a really great place. Let's start here. And we'll take a look at some of those help resources as well. So here is when you're at the Google page. If I wanted to get to Gmail, there usually is a Gmail quick button up here. I can also it looks like I'm signed into something. It's like that is one of my other ones. I visit multiple emails here, so I'm gonna go to this one. So now it says A, so that is my personal one that links my work one. So if I hit Gmail, it should open up my mailbox. So here we have my inbox with everything. Here are some items. This is me prepping for this class. So you can see the different attachments. It shows me what type of file it is. I can just click on the little download to download all. I can just click on them separately. If you notice as I hover, they do kind of light up a little different gray color, and I can just preview it, download it. If you need to print something from your email like this, I would always recommend you download first, then open in the original place, and then print. If you hit the print button here, it's not always going to be printing the same view that you're looking at. And it also might get confused if you're like at the public printer here at the library versus at your own home. So it might work at home, but it's not going to here because we have different settings. So just remember to download first. To get to any of your settings, which I think is the thing that most people don't know much about, you hit your gear icon, and here are some quick settings. Here's that theme I told you about right now. This is under the regular Gmail theme, but let's be fun and find something. I want to be on the water, so I choose Lake Tahoe. You can add your own photo. This is just a fun, silly thing that I like doing. It doesn't really look like anything right now. Yeah, that doesn't look like much of anything. Lake Tahoe is a bust. I would. There we go. The jellyfish. Put a nice little purple thing in the background. You can change just the visuals of your mail as well. So here's the density. So this is like how much space is in between each email here. Right now it's on default, but if I wanted it to be a little bit wider, I could, or if I wanted it to be super compact, I could also do that too. The default is usually kind of somewhere in the middle. You can also change what's unread first and have that be the way that it does the order of operation at the top. The default is usually going to be what's most recent, but if it's just what's been unread, you could click that. If you wanted to change whether or not it splits the page or if it's going to open up another window to read the email. So no split means it's going to open up in another window or tab. If I hit right, it's going to reload itself, and then we're going to have like it's going to open up next to it. So that's kind of an example of changing any of those intricacies of how you view your email, or if you like it below instead of to the side. I usually just like it to open up in another window altogether. There's a bunch more other settings that you can do. We won't go through everything here. I'm just going to brief through them. You can change the language if English is not your first language. You can change how many messages you show per page, up to 100. This is a really important one, I think. You can, so there is an undo send button. Every time you send a button in the left corner, it's gonna blink message sent, and then it'll have an option to undo the send. Right now it is set to 30 seconds. I think that's the highest that it can be. I don't know that that's the default. I might have changed that. I think another important one is, let's see, so there's if you want the default text style, or if you need to change this, if you have trouble with your eyesight and you need to make sure that the text size for the emails is larger than the default, this is where you would change it. If you want grammar suggestions on or off, same with spelling or autocorrect. Conversation view is one that I find very important. Some people really enjoy conversation view. This is when you have back and forth emails with the same email address, and it will condense it. Instead of always showing up as a new separate email, it's just going to condense it and add it to the previous message. The way that it shows up in your inbox is always very confusing to me, which is why I have it turned off. I feel like I miss emails more if I have the conversation view turned on. But each person has their own feelings on that one, but this is where you turn it on or off. And I think the last thing that's important is the signature and or vacation responder. So if you want to have a signature, since this is mainly for my library email, I do have my library signature on here. And then you can also, when you're on vacation, you can select the day that this responds with when you're on vacation. I'll get back to you as soon as I get home, and you can save that. You do have to remember to go back and fix this if you didn't select a last day for that to show. So do remember to do that. Okay. And if you ever need to play with any of your labels or boxes or folders here, this is where you can manage that. And then you also do have like your filters and blocking, or if you want to have certain rules where every email from a certain place just goes directly into a folder instead of looking at it in your inbox. The rest of those are a little bit more specific, and you usually don't have to play with them. I think that's what we'll go with right now. Again, you have your menu button up here. So anytime I click it, it kind of opens up the side menu with my inbox and sent and trash, spam, all of my folders or labels. To make a new folder or label, you just would go down to the label section and then click plus, and then you would add in the new name. If you want it to nest under somewhere, you would choose where and then hit create. I think, let's see, your trash does delete every 30 days, or you can just do it yourself right away with that button. I think that's mainly everything we went over in email. So let's take a look. We'll hit our apps here. We'll go to Google Drive. Again, same kind of thing we were looking at before. We've got our new button. So new upload, new folder, or if you needed to get elsewhere. So I could do file upload. Maybe I want to put the presentation from today in here, so I can click on that and then hit upload. And it does show me down in the left corner here when it's loading, and then it'll tell me when it's complete. So I can click to it to get to it right away, or I could just close it. If I again clicked on shared with me, this shows me a whole bunch of different things, and it does tell me who it was shared by, so that's who created it. So it can help you and whether or not it can be deleted. So when other people make it, you can't delete it. And then recent. let's see. If I wanted to open up something. So say I wanted to look at this, I can click on it and then it asks what I want to do up here, or I can click on my 3-dot menu. Remember when I said 3 dots in a vertical line means it's a menu, so I could choose to open it. Or I can also just double click on it. And this shows me a preview. It's a PDF. This was a journal about library workers. It's an article that I downloaded and was reading. So that's just an example of opening it. All right. Then if we wanted to go to Google Docs, like I said, there's a few different ways you can go through Google Drive, or I can select it in my apps here too. So if you don't see the app, keep going. You think this is the end because you have this line, but you keep going, and here's Google Docs. So this opens up first with most recent documents, or it's giving you options to make a blank one or use a template. There are not as many templates in Google Docs as there is in Microsoft Word. However, they are fairly decent. So if we hit blank, it's gonna pop up. Here is our document that we had a peek of earlier. That is just a plain document. So we have untitled here. I can start typing it here. And then as you see, the auto saves to Drive. We have file, edit, view, insert, format, all of your same formatting functions between there and here on your ribbon that goes across the top, as you would in Microsoft Word. So as I type, if you notice up at the top, it's constantly saying saving, and then when it's done, it says save to Drive. Same thing now, saving, save to Drive. So whenever you have this cloud with the check mark, that means that everything that's on the screen is saved to the cloud. Because anything that you make here is going to stay in the cloud until you download it to your physical computer. If I wanted to go back, I could go, let's see. I want to click here, yeah, and then go back here. Now I have this random document that I named a weird name. If I wanted to open up, so this, yesterday I did book club, so here is book club document. If I click on my 3-dot menu, I can rename it, remove it, or open it in a new tab. I can just click on it. So now it opens this up. And if I wanted to download this to my computer, I would click on File and Download. And here it does give you an option. What kind of format do you want to download it in? If this is something that you are going to continue to edit on your computer, but in Microsoft Word for some reason, or you're going to share it with somebody who perhaps has Microsoft Word, because you cannot open up Google document files in Microsoft Word. You first have to download it and convert it to Microsoft Word. So this is kind of a nice short way. You just say download, and I want it to be in Microsoft Word format. When you do this, it does sometimes change the formatting. So if you have done some specific formatting that is a little complicated, it might change it a little bit. For something like this, which is just a question sheet for discussion questions for book club, I'm sure it's not going to do anything. So I could say, I want Microsoft Word, and I just automatically put it down here in into my downloads folder. I could also download it as a PDF document, which if you are done editing and also don't want anyone else to edit it, a PDF document is always a really good option. So there's the PDF of it. So that is how you would take a document that is in Google Drive already and download it from the cloud to your computer. Last thing I wanted to do. So for this one that we made, up at the top, we have our share button. So right now, this is only me has access. And I have decided that it is restricted, or I could change it and say anyone with this link can do this, or this is where also I can add in email addresses. So there's a different email address I have, or this person, or this person. And here is where you're going to choose editor, viewer, commenter. So viewer, only view, can't write anything. Commenter, can't change the file, but the comments will be sent and will show up in the margins. Or editor. That's where multiple people can work on the same document at the same time. And anytime you have multiple people, it's always going to show at the top of your document who is currently in the document. And if there's more than one person, it'll show both people. If you hit send, then it's going to send that invite to everybody. We're not going to do that to my poor coworkers. They don't want to get my random email. You can also just copy a link and then paste it into like a text message or somewhere else if you want a link done that way instead of an email. If you're not going to actually do it, you just click outside of it anywhere, acts like it never even happened. I had talked about earlier the little pencil editing mode. So this is where you can change things. So right now you're in editing. Suggesting is edits become suggestions, and then viewing is like you're only allowing people to view it and you're kind of locking it so no one can change it. But the suggestion one, all the comments are going to show up in the right margin on the side here. Okay, let's see. Let's see if there's anything else about Google Docs. No, I'm running out of time here. So other than Google Docs, we also had calendar, right? So my brain is starting to, it's the end of the night. Yes. So here is that I took a screenshot of this last night. I don't normally use this email for my calendar. So I just started putting in random things so you can see how it works. But here, anytime I click somewhere, it's going to think I want to start an event at that time. So I can add the title, change the date and time, add a guest, location. But if I don't actually need to do that, I can just hit the X and it goes away. If I click on an event that already happened, I can always edit or not that it already happened, but that is already put into the calendar. Always look for a pencil to edit. There's also trash for delete. If you want to email it, and then of course we always have our options menu. If you want to print this, duplicate it, change the owner. Same thing with work here. If I say edit, it's going to open up this full screen here, and I can change if I need this to repeat. I could say weekly on Wednesday. If I want a notification, And then always remember to hit save. So now if I go to, if I use my navigation buttons to go to the next week, now I do have this listed in the next weeks here coming. But it's not going the previous weeks to now because I didn't have that in before. So it's only from when I started putting it in and forward. If you hit today, it's going to take you to today. And here's where you can change the week, day, month, year, schedule, or just 4 days at a time. So that's just your view on how you want to see it. So there's your month one. You want it daily so that you can see it hourly as you go along. There's year, or if you just want 4 days at a time. I'm not sure why they picked 4 and why not like 3, but I usually like week. And then over down on the left side is the calendars. So if I took off this, that makes the stuff that I put in go away. Birthdays, I don't know what birthday contact list this is connected to right now, so I'm not sure if that actually has anything shown in there. If I want to add a calendar, this is where I can create a new one. And when you create a new calendar, and again, I do have these directions in here for creating and sharing them. So you can name the calendar, the description, who's the owner, and then let's see, you hit create, and then also let's do like family. I don't really need that. Let's hit create. Family created successfully. Okay. So you click on family, and here is a few different options. You can make this public. So if this is something for public events or public clubs of some kind, you can make it public and have a shareable link that you can send out to people. You can automatically add all invitations to this calendar or not show. I would just keep that. And here's where you can add multiple people to the calendar. So this is like if you wanted a family calendar and you wanted to include your husband, this is where I would just send this to Josh. I'll tell him to ignore that later. So then he's going to get the invite, and then our calendars would be linked. Again, those directions are in that handout. And the one last thing that wasn't in my presentation that I'm going to quickly cover, I know I'm 6 minutes over, apologies, is Google Photos. So Photos is a big, scary thing for most people when it comes to their smartphones. And I'm going to tell you that it is also a little scary for me sometimes. So while we're going to look at it, I am by no means an expert on this, but Google Photos here, you do have access to storing and editing photos within Google Photos. If you have a Gmail or Google account. If you have an Android phone, you're probably very familiar with this already. Everything that you take pictures of is going to be backed up here. Oh, look, you can see some sonogram photos from 5 years ago. But everything's going to back up from your phone. I don't have an Android phone, so this is kind of all over the place, just random stuff that I have backed up on here previously, since I have an iPhone. But it does open up to your photo stream first. It has on the left side here, you have explore and sharing. You have favorites, if you've ever favorited something, or albums, if you've made an album. I think for the purpose of this class previously, I had made a sunset album. of some sunsets from many years ago. Archive usually means hide it, but don't get rid of it. And then there's also trash. When you're in photos, you should be able to go down, it'll tell you time frame. So yeah, we have lots of random photos I've put in here backed up. Got, I think that's what, Open Gardens. This is like a best of slideshow it made or something. So it does do some like slideshows, and when you want to add something, you do have an upload button up in the top right corner. So if you want to add it and upload from your computer, so it's your physical computer to Google Photos, or if it's something that's in Google Drive and you want to make sure that it's in Google Photos, that's an option. You can also directly transfer from your camera. So if you have like a point and shoot digital camera or DSLR camera, you can attach with the cord and transfer from those services. If you have physical photos that you're scanning and digitizing, you can also choose that option. Or if you're backing up, so if you're backing up from your physical computer to Google Photos or from your phone. So they do give you a lot of different options here from what to upload from. Most of the time it's probably going to be just from your computer. I have no idea what kind of photos I have on here that we can grab. Oh, here, let's do this one. This is a fun one that we did last fall. I teach a Cricut class, so it's a Cricut cutting crafting machine that we got last year. And as for our staff day, we were playing with it so that everybody could kind of get a handle on it and know what it was. So we made cupcake toppers to put in our cupcakes. So if you notice, all I did was, so you do upload, I'll do that again with a different photo, computer. I chose it from my photos, and then you select, make sure it's highlighted in blue, and then just click upload. And it tells you it's uploading, and then it tells you it's there. So now if I go, yeah, I don't really use this Google Photos very often since I do have a separate one for my own stuff. Usually personally, just use this to play with stuff. But here it tells me the date that it was taken. And then if I click on it to open it, I can enlarge it. You do have options when you're within each photo for editing. So the first button is your share button, then you have edit. So this is where you can enhance your photo. You can change things if you need to sharpen the photo, if you need to take some color out or add some color in. So say you need it to be a warmer photo or you need it to be cooler. If you need this to be more dynamic, or if you just want to do the auto enhance, you could also just do that. You do have some other options across the top here. So there's a crop button. They give you some different ratios if you know exactly what you need, or you can do it freehand. You need to cut something specific out. If you go to the edit toggle button next for adjust, this is where you can get really picky with brightness, contrast, white point, highlight, shadows, saturation, tints, skin tones, or if you want to make it a vignette, or you want to make things pop. I think that is a quick button that kind of plays with like the contrasts and highlights and stuff. And then you also, the next button is the filters, so you could add filters to this through Google Photos too. So anytime you change anything, if I were to change something, I would then hit save, but I haven't changed anything, so it doesn't highlight that for me. If you need to get out and get to a different photo, you just click the X there. And if you want to make an album, you first have to be in Albums. Then you have the button in the top right corner for Create Album. So you have to remember when you're in Photos, it'll say Upload in the top, but the Create Albums button only pops up when you click into Albums first. So there's that. You also have a search bar up at the top if you need to search for photos. If you start labeling people, it'll also show faces, so you can just say, oh, I want, here's my husband, or here I want pictures of me, or one of my sisters. Or I could use words that describe the photo or the event, like wedding, hiking, Halloween. Or if I favorited something. Favoriting something is when I'm in here, and that's after share and edit, zoom, info, then you have favorite. The info just gives you the information about the photo that goes along in the data. You also have trash can. And this is also your 3-dot menu. Imagine that. You can click download to put it onto your physical computer. Or again, you could add it to an album that already exists, or archive it, or if you want to use the services that Google has for printing, you can also do that too. So that's just a quick overview of photos. I know I'm 15 minutes over, so apologies. I just wanted to make sure I threw that in there because Google Photos is something that people use a lot. In the handout, I do have the app version for Google Photos listed. So if that is something that you're interested in, it's on the back page. So I have the screenshots of when you're in Google Photos, just on like your phone or your tablet. Because that's usually how people access it.